As we started to file out, I made sure to wait until the older kids had gotten out ahead of me. I didn't want to cut anyone. I made my way down the aisle when my feet flew out from under me, and suddenly I found myself lying on my back, seeming to have forgotten about the borrowed rollerblades I had grudgingly laced up back at school. "Bender," I heard behind me. "New squeaker on the team?" I thought it ironic that this tall, gangly junior himself bent considerably at the ankles in his blades, and the meaning of the word "bender" then came to me in a long-overdue epiphany. He will remain pseudonymous as Ben, and he offered a hand to help me up, but as uncoordinated as his height rendered him, bent in at the ankles and fell forward. Suddenly I was the one laughing, and helped Ben up as best as my 4 feet 11 inches could. "No time to bury the dead. Let's get going if we want to be back before sundown," the other coach, but I couldn't remember his name, chuckled with a wink. Sure enough, we made no hesitation but began our roll down the Minuteman bike path. I found myself caught somewhere between the first group and second group of skiers as we set out, not really knowing where I fell, and somewhat hesitant to butt into one group or the other. I didn't want to be that kid who upset the seniority. The late fall breeze churned up the piles of dried leaves and strew them over the path, and I soon had one ensnared between my 2 wheels, and every other stride announced itself to me with a drag and a hiss. I looked up and realized that I had been alone for quite some time. I pushed along, accompanied only by the sound of that god-awful leaf, and I recognized the pain in my stomach not as a cramp, but as the well-known fear of utter loneliness. I couldn't see anyone ahead. I slowed down, but I saw no one behind. Am I lost? Did they turn around someplace? Did they forget about me? Were they waiting for me? Damn it, that swearing's already rubbing off. I knew I was the only 7th grader, and my biggest fear was being perceived as a nuisance, that kid who delayed everyone else. There was absolutely no one else on the bike path, and I was totally alone. I could hear the roar of I-95 beneath the bridge a few yards ahead, and I decided the best thing to do was to head back the way I had come and hope I could intercept another group of kids. Thus began my solo return back to the lot. Each bridge I came to resembled the one I'd registered as a landmark before we had begun, and I dreaded the prospect of missing the turnoff and skating off into the distance forever. Finally, I could pick up the same foreign guffawing and laughter that I remembered from the bus through the trees up to my right. I made an attempt to rollerblade up the ramp to the parking lot, but ended up meeting the gravel with my ungloved hands, already stinging from what I thought was frostbite. "Bender!" It was Ben again. We both laughed, and my feelings of exclusion and discomfort melted away at the irony of his insult, now that I knew what it meant. One practice down, a season of bending to go.
I don't know, I think we've all had that feeling of being like a new kid and you don't want to be a nuisance, and I think he captured.
I think he went into great detail about the leaf that was stuck in between
Yes.
the 2 wheels. You could it was almost like it was your sleeve.